Or at gas prices are jumping, even though today oil prices are collapsing a little bit. But in case you are keeping count, I'm sure you are every time you fill up at the station, we jumped more than 20 cents a gallon from just a month ago. Now, we're appreciably lower than where we were a year ago. But, you know, maybe we were getting a little bit prematurely spoiled at all of this because we apparently do need the money with all the money we're paying in taxes. Interesting survey out of the Tax Foundation I want to relay with a good friend Craig Smith, who follows this stuff very well, far better than I, by the way, that shows that more Americans are spending money on taxes than food, clothing, and housing combined. We can get into the details. Suffice it to say that everyone's tax burden, the collective tax burden, has gone up. That is federal, local, state, et cetera. So no matter what happens with federal vagaries, the fact of the matter is you are paying more as a percentage of your income, taxes, than you do on all this other stuff. Craig, that can't be good. What do you make of it?
Neil, when I saw this report, you know they do it every year, it just reminded me of how out of control this government is. I want you to think about it. You still have 17 days to go, Neil, before you pay your fair share. So you're going to work till April 24th to pay your share of the taxes: federal, state, local, sales tax, excise tax, property tax, inheritance tax, estate tax, corporate tax. I can go on. And what's frightening about it is now the average American...
that date is the date at which you have now paid everything you can to the government.
You're
everything
free.
else you make is yours from there on out. But that's a moving target and always gets moved back each year. But go ahead.
No, and you're absolutely right. And here's what's interesting. In 1910, it took 19 days to pay all your taxes for the year. Okay, today it takes 114 days, and if you add in borrowing, put another 16 days in. Here's a point, Neil. When you take that amount of money out of the system and you take it out of the hands of productive people that will care about that money and spend it and invest it and save it properly and put it into a profligate government that is wasting money and abusing money and giving, quite frankly, money to people who don't deserve it, we should be outraged as a nation. And to quote one presidential candidate, to me it's disgusting, Neil, that a single mom is now paying more to the federal government than she is to house, clothe, and feed her family.
But you know what's never discussed enough? We talk about, and there's no doubt, we've seen the jobs recover when there are more jobs. That I don't doubt. But as you point out, it's the quality of jobs, it's the income that comes with those jobs, and it's the rather tepid nature of this recovery. That's not a political statement. I'm just looking at the numbers. And I think that explains the angst that's out there. But Republicans particularly are bad at doing that explanation and positing the way you just did in the case of a single mom who's forking out more in taxes than she is getting for all her other creature comforts for her and her family. And they don't do it. They always botch it.
No, you're right. And the messaging is very poor, Neil. And look, here's what's frightening. You have a socialist by the name of Bernie Sanders that wants the taxes to go higher on everybody, including that single mom. Now, he won't say it in his speeches, but when you look at the numbers, that's how it shakes out.
Well, to be honest, and here's one thing I do like about Bernie Sanders. He was honest enough to say after hitting the upper income that to pay for everything, he'd have to go down to the middle class. He didn't describe how much. But he told the middle class, you're going to get a lot more back than you're paying in. But the numbers don't add up.
Neil, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Okay, if you like your plan, you keep your plan. We know that government is big on promises and very short on delivery. And I've got to tell you that in looking at the internal data on this report, it's very interesting, Neil, because it's hitting hard-working people. And then when you put that in the backdrop of what's happening on the Dow, and you look at what happened on Tuesday and Wednesday when they arbitrarily changed rules and then filed suits against Halliburton, Neil, I love what you said, and you probably don't even remember, and I'm paraphrasing it. But when Jack Lew arbitrarily changed Rule 7874 and Rule 385 to stop the inversion of Pfizer and Allergan, he basically said, if you do things by the book here in America and want to send the money out of the country, I'm going to stop it. But if you come into the country illegally and you want to send that illegally made money back to your country, I'm okay with that.
One is an outright illegal act. The latter is an illegal act for which the President of the United States has claimed he cannot trace or act when he can. It's actually quite easy to do. And the other is changing a very legal method, an accounting method that's been allowed for years, whether you like it or not, and then with a stroke of a pen, reversing.
And Neil, here's what's interesting. In 2007, the Treasury did a study on inversions, and they looked at the effect that it would have on unemployment. Guess what? It didn't increase or decrease unemployment, and it didn't increase or decrease GDP. It has no net effect on this economy. But what if we reduce that ridiculous 35% rate to, say, 15 or 20%,
this would be
and we
a
made
moot
it the
point.
cheapest
It'd be a moot point. You're exactly right.
I'm telling you, we would have more money. We would knock that $19 trillion debt down in a 10-year period like that.
Yeah, we always assign all the stuff to being unpatriotic. Well, there's nothing patriotic about losing money. There's nothing patriotic about having your shirt handed to you year in and year out by foreign competitors.
How does a CEO tell a shareholder, hey, I'm not going to do this, so it's going to take money out of your teachers' pensions and your union pensions, because even though it's legal to do it,
they're not framing it that way, buddy.
You know, they're not.
That's where they botch it, and then they frame it in a way that it cedes to this populist rhetoric that doesn't get us anywhere. It's always good having you. Thank you very, very much.
Good seeing you, Neil.
Craig, a moment of sanity Smith, I call him. All right.